My name's Dwayne Chase. I'm a deputy for Sequoyah County Sheriff's Department in Sequoyah County, Oklahoma. So ever since I was a kid, my dream was to become an officer, be a cop. I'd had some dealings with officers when I was a teenager, and they just come off real rough and almost like a robot, and they didn't treat people how people need to be treated. So I told myself one day when I was 16, I said, I'm going to be an officer one day, and I'm going to be the guy that replaces the one that don't treat people like people. So that was motivation for me to get in law enforcement. First time I went to the doctor was actually a hospital. I had 3 toes on my left foot that was not feeling right. They were tingling, numb. So went to the hospital. Podiatrist come in. The look on his face when he seen my foot, I knew I was in trouble. Something just wasn't right. He ordered a biopsy, had a biopsy in August, and it was malignant. When you get the cancer diagnosis, that's when it really becomes real, and you're like, oh man, this is it. And where do we go from here? I went back and seen Dr. Montgomery. He started giving me treatment options. Surgery is what he had mentioned. I just basically stopped him and I said, look, man, I said, here's the deal. If I amputate my foot, will I be cancer free? And he looked at me and he says, well, yeah, for the most part. So October 16th, I had my foot and part of my leg amputated. You walk around for 4 years with 2 legs, and then all of a sudden you're left with just one. It made life complicated. I was told that most people get their prosthetics, 3 to 4 months after surgery, and I wasn't doing that. I wanted to be back at work in 4 months after surgery. That was my goal. I immediately started doing research. I had a really good friend that had a leg amputated due to diabetes, and I just called him up and said, hey man, I'm gonna need a prosthetic. This is what I got going on. Where do you go? And he says, I go to Snell. He says, man, I highly recommend Snell. So right after I had surgery, the 2-week mark, whenever I had my staples taken out, I asked Dr. Montgomery, I said, how quick can I go and get a prosthetic? He says, you can get started on it now. I made an appointment with Snell. They got me in really, really quick. Then I met Jim, and Jim's just been a rock star. There's been a couple of times I've just stopped by and said, hey, I need to make an appointment. I got this going on, and no hesitation, come on back, brother. Done what I needed to get done, and just formed a really good relationship. In fact, it's kind of weird. You go to a place like Snell and you expect to be treated like a patient, but they've treated me a lot like family. I consider Jim a brother, because that's exactly how he treats me. And it's more than just a place where I get my prosthetic, it's a family. I'm part of a amputee support group. Jim, he's a part of that. Any questions I've got, they're real quick to answer, and I got nothing bad to say about Snell. I didn't know if I'd be able to go out and be a road deputy like I was. It's a dangerous job, You got to be able to think fast and make fast moves, and something that kept me going through my recovery. Actually, before I even had my leg amputated, I done a whole lot of praying, and there was the, God, why me, all that. And it just hit me one day. After I had surgery, I had a down day, and I said, you know what, this ain't a disability, this is an opportunity. And I just ran with that, and that got me through a lot of dark, bad days. Just kept telling myself I'm not disabled. It's not a disability, it's an opportunity. And the reason why I say that, in the line of work I do, I meet people all the time that's got cancer. And up until my ordeal, I had to tell these people, look, I don't know what you're going through, and try to help them. And it was difficult because I didn't know what they were going through. But now, those people, the people with cancer that's, wanting to end their life or having bad days and really depressed, I can say, hey, I know exactly what you're going through. Let's sit down, we'll figure it out together. Now, almost 3 months back at work, doing great, actually doing a lot better than ever expected, and loving it. September 26, 2024, day I'll never forget. I'd been on duty approximately 4 hours. It was right around 10 o'clock at night. Filling up in Muldrow, filling my unit up. Dispatch calls me, lets me know that they've got a driver coming into our county from the west side, driving the wrong way on the interstate. I immediately stopped the gas pump, told dispatch I'd be en route because I was right off the interstate. I remember looking up the interstate and going, man, that's busy. It's a bunch of semis, thinking about families, passing through at that time. So I got my unit, ran code, got on the interstate. I was hoping to get in front of as much traffic as I could. That way I can at least warn people there's something going on. Remember whenever I got there, I sped up, moved my unit to block the interstate, got out, and it was just all nothing but headlights as far as I could see. So I immediately started getting people off the interstate. I remember looking over at the firefighter, and the next thing I know, I wake up in the hospital at UAMS in Little Rock. I remember looking over and asking why I'm there. That's when I found out that I'd been hit by a vehicle. I remember looking around, seeing family, and thinking, I'm done. When you get told you've been hit by a vehicle, especially on the interstate where it's 70 miles an hour, your first reaction is like, it's not good. Especially when you got people you care about staring at you and what you can see in their face. I hit the hood, start going through the windshield, and then for whatever reason, I fly over the top of the vehicle, land several feet away from the scene. So I was then life flighted from our local hospital to UAMS in Little Rock. What I did end up having was my right leg had been broken several places. Said that whenever they held my foot and knee up, it was a U-shape as my leg would do it. So ended up having to have a rod put in. I had broken almost all my ribs. Ended up breaking my neck, had a hangman's fracture in my C2. So they had to fuse my C1 and C3 together. And then I had all kinds of glass on this arm, this side of the body. Took about 3 months for it all to finally work its way to surface and get out. This recovery has been hard. I'd been back to work 6 months after having my left leg amputated due to cancer. I was feeling so good. Man, I was able to jog. Hadn't been able to do that. Felt whole. And then to go through something like that and to get set back even further than what it was. I thought losing the leg was painful. That was easy. This has been the most painful thing I've ever been through. The amazing thing is Snell, they come to UAMS and pick my prosthetic up. And by the time I could get myself to where I could bear weight on this leg to where I could wear the prosthetic, Snell had already had my prosthetic ready to go. I guess it was about 5 weeks after the accident, I had to go to Snell and make an attempt to cast my left leg. That was the first time I'd seen Jim in a couple months. And As soon as Jim seen me, the smile on his face and the hug that he gave me, he was grateful just to see me alive. Made me feel good. When you got a place like Snell that does something as personal as they do, when you gain a personal relationship with those people, it's way different than anything else. Every time I see Jim and Holly, it's awesome. They're important people in my life. They've really been there and helped me out so much. To know that Jim was on top of everything the minute he heard about what had happened, it made me feel like I was a priority to him. It made me feel really good. I wouldn't go back to work March or April this year. I'm still doing outpatient PT. Future for me with my job, I'm eventually going to be a road deputy. But until then, I'm going to have to take it easy and just kind of ride this recovery out. But I know the minute they tell me I'm good to go back on the road, I'll be back in patrol. That's the goal. I work too hard in this profession to just give it up. I'm not gonna let cancer or someone hit me on the interstate to stop that. Something I've wanted to do my whole life. Now I'm living my dream, and I will continue to live my dream. Hopefully retire as a sheriff's deputy.